Now, with everyone practicing indoors at the moment, and most people not able to get to a range, I've seen a lot of things that have been saying, you know, use band drills, you can practice at home with a band and do certain exercises and stuff like that, which is true and that's great, but there are certain things that I haven't seen explained, and there are some key things when it comes to using a band that you need to make sure of, so that when you actually do the band drills, they're applicable to your shooting and you're actually replicating, you know, what you're going to do in your shooting. So that's what I wanted to have a look at today. Firstly, using a band to work on your technique is great no matter what level you are shooting at. So it's really common for people to start using a band when they're a beginner or when they're learning, you know, a big new technique area, and then they get to a certain level and they just stop using bands completely and only shoot their bow. But really, doing band work is great for any level, regardless of what you're learning. Even if you're just trying to ingrain, you know, your technique a bit more and not change anything, you're just trying to ingrain it more, it's great. So just keep doing the band stuff no matter what level you're at, and in your normal practice it should be there during warm-ups, just as a, you know, a feeling repetition between ends. That sort of thing is really, really good. Now, before we get started with the basic pointers I want to begin with, it's important to remember that when you do the band work, probably the biggest mistake here is just doing maybe 100, 150, 200 drills with a band, and that's it. So a lot of people, you know, they'll say, okay, I'm going to do a band session now, and then they just do, you know, a certain number of drills with the band. So they just come up, and they draw up and do the band, and that's it. And they do maybe, like I said, 50, 100, whatever of these. That is useful, but it's probably not really applicable to the shooting as much as if you do it alternating with the bow. So the best way to do this is to do the band drills, working on a specific area, but also drawing the bow back. So rather than just doing 200 of, you know, a certain drill with the band, and you don't really get much feedback as to what you're doing is, whether what you're doing is correct, or, you know, different areas like that, it's really important to do the band work and then alternate it with your bow. So you can do maybe 10 with the band, then do a few with the bow and see, okay, I'm working on my elbow alignment here, I'm working on getting this round, do it with the band and look. And then the key thing is, does this then transfer to when you're doing it with your bow? That's the real measure, isn't it, after all? Because we're not really interested if you can do it with the band and then you can't do it with the bow, because, you know, that's not great in the long run. So we want to make sure that you can actually transfer it. So not only does this make it, you know, more applicable and transferable, it's also a lot more enjoyable, and it's a lot more clear whether you're doing the right thing. Because if you're just doing it with the band, sometimes it can feel quite pointless and a bit vague. If you then transfer it with the bow, you can clearly see whether what you're doing is correct and whether it's actually going to help you when you're shooting. So always alternate with the band drills and transfer it to the bow. The first basic pointer is make sure you have a clear goal with the band work, and also make sure that you're getting feedback on this. So interestingly, one of the prerequisites for being in a flow state, which is, you know, that state where you're performing at your best and elite athletes achieve, and, you know, every profession has this kind of flow state. You've probably had this before when you've been shooting or when you've been doing other activities, whatever. One of the prerequisites for this is to get immediate feedback. So immediately you can see with the band, if you're doing band work and you're not really sure what you're doing because it's quite foreign, normally you have the bow, you have the sight as feedback, you have the arrow, you know, flying as feedback, you have the outcome feedback, you have all this feedback and the normal feelings, and then you go to do stuff with a band and you've not really got any feedback now. So it's very hard to get into this state where you're actually working in a really good way and get into this flow state. So the first thing is set a goal and choose the feedback that you're going to get. So like I said before, say I'm working on my elbow alignment here, check and say, okay, what I'm going to look at now is this elbow line in relation to when I come up here. Where is it? Is it here? Is it here? That is what I'm looking at. So there you've set the goal and you've got a clear method that you can check the feedback. You also know that if you look overhead, you could see this in a really good view as well. So that's another way you could get feedback. Immediately by doing this, this makes band work much better. Now, the second thing I want to show you is the bow hand. So you've got your band and you're doing your drills. So one of the key things when you're doing the drills is to make sure you're actually stabilizing the bow hand. You're not just letting it wave around everywhere. So I see it too often when, you know, archers will do bow drills with the band and they'll draw and the hand is moving around. So they'll be drawing and the hand is moving around like this, even when they're expanding, they're allowing the hand to move around. You need to make sure that the bow hand is stable, because that's exactly what it would be like when you're shooting. So you don't want, you know, the hand moving around, you don't want kind of all this just moving around, or when you're expanding, you don't want to let your hand wobble like that. You want to make sure it's stable. So you come up, down, and then as you draw, make sure it's stable. So see, even as I'm drawing here, see how this is moving around like that? That's not what you want. You want to make sure that when you're coming down, you're stabilizing the hand and you're actually using the muscles around the shoulder, you know, around the tricep and that kind of thing, like you would do when you're normally shooting. So the bow hand is really, really important. What you can also do, and I've got this here, is actually get a grip and put it around the band so that you actually can put your hand on the grip and then draw as well. So very simply, I'll just demonstrate this here. So ignore the hook at the moment. I just want to demonstrate the hand, but you can put the band through the grip, and when you're drawing, you've then got a grip that you can replicate off, and this is, then you can, you know, replicate the pressure point. So that's really easy to do if you've got a spare grip, something like that. And it's a great way to actually closely replicate what you're going to do with the bow. Now, if you can't use the grip or you don't have a spare one, whatever, there are better ways of, you know, putting the band around your hand. So if you're just grabbing the band like this and closing it and then shooting and doing your band drill, that's not actually a great way to replicate it, because you're having to hold it with your hand. I've also seen some people maybe, you know, holding the band like this or wrapping it around the fingers. That's not great. The best way I've found to do this is to simply get it in the hand and wrap it round the fingers once and then through the top of the thumb. So I'll do that again. So you wrap it round the fingers and then back round through the thumb. And you can see here, as you're pulling the band here, it's almost pulling on where the pressure point would be. So it's vaguely similar, even though it's not as good as, you know, with the grip, it's vaguely similar to what you would do when you're shooting. And you can see also that the band is then pulling the hand back like that in the same way that it would do when, you know, you're shooting with the grip and shooting with your bow. So that's another way you can do that. Finally, the third pointer I wanted to kind of show you is the hook. So similar to the bow hand, the hook is really important as well. And too many people, when they do the drills, they allow the hook to come off. So very common to see the bottom finger come off when you're doing the hook and when you're doing band drills like this. So you don't want, that is not going to be your normal hook. So don't do band drills like that. Make sure to get your hook as close as you can, as possible, and then maintain this like this through the shot. So, you know, that's your normal hook, you're replicating it rather than allowing it to kind of come out like that. Now, obviously this is more common when you use maybe a wide band like this one. So, you know, if you use one of these bands where it's kind of more like a ribbon style band, then it's obviously easier to let the finger come off like that, but you still need to maintain it. You can do it. This is quite a heavy band as well. It needs to be longer, but this is quite a heavy one. You can do it even when I'm here, so you can maintain it. You don't want to let the hook come off like that. So that's really important. It's worth having both types of bands. So this band is great for stuff where you're doing the hook, but then this band has uses as well, which I'll show you later on in the video. So it's good to have both types. Now, one more kind of basic pointer for band work is make sure you do the right speed and keep the right balance when you're doing this work. Again, because you haven't got a bow, it's not as heavy mass weight, it's not as heavy draw weight, it's very easy and you're very able to just kind of, you know, bring the band up, draw it back and just do that. And you're kind of just moving very quickly. It's very easy for you to be able to just move, draw really quickly and do everything really quickly. But make sure that you don't do this and you keep, you know, the correct balance. Synchronize both hands, synchronize the bow hand and the draw side. Make sure you get the nice connection through the arm. All these things, make sure you maintain that and then keep the speed and the balance correct. Otherwise, there's not really any point of doing the bow training. So again here, rather than throwing the, you know, the hand up and then throwing the band around, you can just make sure to start with, you can start off even super slow. So you start off really slow, check what you're doing, come through, okay. And notice how I'm maintaining the hook here and the bow hand. So you're coming up, through, down, simple. Then you can speed it up a bit and get more close to real speed. Like that. And then maybe you can speed up there. Probably the draw was a little bit slow still, so when I've got the bow, it might be something like that. So that's closer to real speed. You don't want to be throwing up the bow hand and then quickly drawing this side and everything's kind of moving around. So it's really good to replicate the speed closely as well. So now I've given you the basics of how to use band drills. I want to go through each technique area, stance, set position, setup. I want to go through each technique area and show you a couple of drills that you can do just with a band and a mirror, and show you what angle to look at yourself in the mirror, how you're going to judge whether you're doing the correct thing, what your feedback is, and then what the point of this is and how you're working on something. So let's start with the stance and posture. So the first one is the postural sway drill. So when I'm demonstrating these, imagine that the camera is where your mirror would be. So you're going to use that as your feedback. This one, you would aim into the mirror, and what you're looking at here, this is great for stopping any swaying of the body like this along the shooting line. So obviously you can see the whole body moving like this as I'm rocking my weight on my heels and toes. So we want to eliminate that. So this is really good. You can use a mirror, look into the mirror, and what you're looking at here is use a reference point. So maybe, if I was to align myself with that scope there, I could use that as a reference point. You can use anything in the background. And what you're looking for is movement here. So when you come up and draw, you want to make sure as you're drawing here, I'll just angle so you can see a little bit better. As you're drawing here, you don't want to move back like this as you're drawing. You don't want to move forwards at all. So you could probably watch this in this video, you can see in the bow hand. So if I draw and move back like that, you can see how the bow hand moves. If I come up and draw, you can see how the bow hand moves the other way. But you want to keep this. So again, as you look in the mirror, you're looking at the back or the chest against any reference point in the background. And it's really, really good to work on this sway and keep that posture. The second drill, which is really good for stance and posture, is, I call this the chest lift drill. So there are two places, we know it's important to keep the core. There are two places where it's really easy to allow yourself to lose the core and allow your rib cage to kind of lift up and to arch the back. Those two places are when you're lifting the bow against gravity. So when you're lifting the bow from your foot, from your leg, whatever, when you're lifting it up, it's really easy to allow the chest to lift up and the back to arch here. And then also when you're doing your bulk alignment, so when you're coming up and then aligning here, it's really easy as you do that to allow the back to arch here rather than keeping it straight. So in this example, again, aim into the mirror, and what you're looking at is the back, the flat back, and the chest position. And at those two key points, you want to make sure that you're not arching the back and the chest is not coming up like this too much. So with the band, look here at the chest. So as I lift, you want to make sure this is fine. This is a good example, and this is all good. What you don't want to do is when you're lifting, you don't want to see how the chest is coming up there, and you can see on the back side there how the back is arching. You don't want that. So that was the beginning stage, and then I'll show you. This is an example of keeping it as I lift the bow, but then when I do the alignment, I'm going to lose it on this one. So this is an example of keeping it fine, and then now when I'm here, I'm going to do the alignment and see that I've lost that there. I don't know if you can see that chest movement. Maybe it's a little bit hard to see on the video, but you can see it in the mirror more easily, obviously because it's bigger. But keep an eye on the sternum there, make sure it's not raising too high, and make sure you're not arching the back too much. It's great to work on that. So for the set position, these are two drills that are really good. First one is set position repeats. It's what it sounds like. You get the band and you come to your set position. So you come up to here. I'll just angle the camera so now you can see that a bit more clearly. You come to your set position and you check. What you're looking for here is you can visually look down, you're looking for the straight line through the arm, the wrist and the hand. So you're looking through that, through to the elbow, which is good, and then through to the bow hand. A great angle to do this is aiming into the camera again. Really easy to see this way. So if I do the correct way, as I come to my set position here, you can see there's a nice line here. Whereas if I come to my set position and I'm here, you can see how there's this kink in the wrist and the hand is a bit closer to the bow arm, that's not as good there. And watch also how the shoulder's a bit compromised. So super simple, aim into the camera. What you're looking for is this straight line through the arm, elbow, wrist, hand, bow hand. Nice straight line. Really great drill to do that. Aiming into the camera is good. You can also change the angle around a bit. So obviously aiming into the camera is here, but then also you can see here, you can also see the straight line in terms of the vertical, because you don't want the wrist too much like this. So you can obviously use the mirror, and see, okay, am I here? Am I here? And you can obviously try and get a nice straight line as well. So that's great to do. The next drill is the setup, repeats drill. So this actually does both the set and the setup position, but it's good to include for the set as well. So what you do with this, exactly what it sounds like. Aiming into the mirror is the best direction for this. And what you're looking at again, is you're looking at this straight line here, but you're looking to maintain it all the way from your set, all the way up to your setup. So very commonly, you'll see it's okay here, and then as you start raising the bow, a lot of archers will then kink the wrist like this, or maybe they'll bring the hand over too much, or they'll lose some part of this straightness here. So you're looking at basically, okay, it's here, and you want to maintain as you come up nice and straight, and then set up, and then back down. So see that I'm not, when I draw, I'm not doing this, coming up and kinking the wrist, and then you can see the elbows out. So you're simply coming from set, nice and straight, set up, and back down. Simple, and that's what you're looking for, that straight line again. So drills for the setup position. The first one is the setup drill, which I just showed you, so you can look at that. The next one is what I call the setup to draw repeat drill. So what it sounds like, you go from your setup position, so you lift, you go from your setup position, you go to full draw, and then back. Full draw, and then back. And you're looking for a couple of things here. So you're looking for this straight arm again, which is good, so you can aim into the camera for that. So I'll show you. So you're looking for that straight arm as you come into full draw and back, and see how that arm, the angle is very constant. I'm not coming in and bending the wrist or anything. I'm not coming in and bending the wrist that way. I'm not, drawing too far and then having to come in sideways. So you're looking for that constant angle and also the constant movement around. It's quite common for, I've seen a lot of archers come in and then they'll draw too far and then they have to go very sideways like that. So you don't want to have to draw and then sideways. You want it to be nice to set up and then one movement in. So that's really key there. What you're also looking at, so that was aiming into the mirror. What you can also do is face the mirror and have it this way. What you're looking at here is when you go from your full draw position to your setup, you're looking at this shoulder, making sure that you don't let that shoulder come up and compress towards the neck and the ear. You want to make sure that shoulder's nice and low. You want to make sure the elbow line is still nice here. So, if you're coming from here and you come to your setup and you find your elbow is really high or your elbow kind of comes down and you're kind of gripping the string, that's not good. You want to keep this nice line in to there, set up, and then draw, set up. So I'll do some with this angle now just to show you. So it's very simple. So you come in, set up, come in, set up, just like that. And notice as well how I'm keeping the hook, keeping the hand, and I'm synchronizing them. So I'm not here, and then when I come to set up, allowing the hand to come massively up and down. I'm not allowing it to move around. They're nice and synchronized together. But it's always up together, synchronized into full draw, and then set up and synchronized. It's pretty simple, but it's a really good drill to do. And you can do it just facing the mirror. Obviously you won't get your anchor position, but that's fine. And you can also do it facing it, aiming into the mirror as well. The next one, which is great for both the setup and the drawing, is to use a shot trainer to draw the band. So this is like a homemade shot trainer, but you can also use, like the Archery one, whatever. You can make your own as well. So you simply attach it to the band like you normally would with the bow, and you simply just draw it. So rather than using your fingers here, obviously, you're using the shot trainer to draw the band. This is really good for teaching you how to keep this arm straight and, really use the direction from the elbow here. And again, when you do this, you're looking to make sure this shoulder is not raising up, it's not compressing at all. It's in a nice position, you're using the scapula, the shoulder blade. So you're going from here to set up here, and then you can also do different parts of the shot. So you can come from here and draw. So it's really good to do that. And see how I'm not using my fingers here, just using the shot trainer. So I could go from set to setup, I can go from setup to full draw. Great to use the shot trainer. Here are 2 drills to help your anchor. So the first one is what I call the fake anchor drill. So this one is you simply draw the band like normal, but you're just going to come to a position here. So effectively the fingers are touching somewhere near the neck or near the collarbone. And you're going to draw the bow and come to here. And the reason for this is I want you to get the feeling of the fingers and the straight arm and everything and the position of the elbow. I want to get you there, and then it's a lot easier to go from there to then move your hand up. I'll show you this left-handed because effectively I'm a beginner left-handed and finding your anchor position as a beginner is quite hard. So if I go from here and I try and find my chin, often it's very hard to find an anchor position and it's really hard to see where it is. If I go first of all to here and then I use this position as the fake anchor, if I go to there and then come up, it's a lot easier for me to find the kind of nice position or better position on my chin compared to just trying to immediately find it. So it's really good to do that. And then the second drill is aiming into the mirror or the camera in this example, aiming in. And then what you're looking at here is just your anchor position. So you want to see on your neck, so you can position like this, aiming in, and you want to see how close your fingers are to the neck, how much you're getting this line here. So you can obviously come close to the mirror, come in and see where your hand is. See if your fingers are close to your neck or if you're kind of locating up the side here. You can also see when you're here, if you move to the side and angle round, you can also see whether you're coming along nice on the jawline or if you're to the side and how you're positioning this. If you've got a video delay, you can go to the other angle and see the gap here as well. So these are all good things you can do for your anchor with simple band drills. 2 great drills for practicing the expansion. One is the arrow in elbow drill. So this is something I've shown before, but you can use this with the band. So you simply put it in your elbow, and when you come to your expansion, you squeeze the device exactly like you would do when you're shooting to practice the expansion direction and encourage you to move round. And what you're looking at here is you would aim into the mirror and you would look at the elbow moving around the body like it is here. So you can see how I'd come in and squeeze round, and you can see the elbow moving around. So that's great. Another thing that you can do, which is really good as well, is you can just get one of the ribbon type TheraBands, put it over your elbow. And this is a great drill for learning to lead with the elbow more when you're expanding. So put it over the elbow, and this is obviously too short, so I'll just have to hold it here. But when you're at your anchor position, you just focus on using the elbow to expand round. So see here how I'm not using the hand, I'm using the elbow to expand round. So this is not ideal because this is too short. It's a little bit hard to show you, but here, so can you see that? So I'm using the elbow to squeeze round and using this ribbon. So it's really good if obviously you need a longer one, but it's really good to do. So 2 drills that are great for the release. They actually don't use a band. You can progress to a band later. The first one is the finger release drill. So you start, fingers here, and you practice first of all, just releasing like this. Fingers together, increase the pressure and release. Then you can move this up to your anchor. Really great drill to practice the speed of the release, practice not opening the fingers, and practice, keeping that hook. Then the second drill is to do the release follow through drill. So you come to your anchor and then you get your hand nice and close and you practice trying to feel like you're gonna cut the neck with your fingers, with your fingernails. So you go from here, nice and slowly, right around like this. I'll show you again. You go from here, right round like this. And as you do that, you can feel the release direction and you can feel the scapula moving around nicely, and the whole motion is really, really good, and it's great to teach you the release. So that's been a complete overview of how to do practice with bands, how to do drills correctly, how to integrate them into your shooting, and then also some specific drills for each part of your shot and what you're looking for when you do these in the mirror, and how you can improve this when you're at home, stuck at home and you can't get to the club. So I hope you found that video useful. As always, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll also put the links to social media down below, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.